Ladies and gentlemen, do you feel more bored in MFF than ever? Are you wondering why the tier 4s aren't slapping and bussin' the way that they should be? Well, fear not. I will do my best to explain why I think, myself included, players are actually a lot more bored than maybe they've ever been with Marvel Future Fight. Now, I recognize that everyone watching the channel, has different playstyles, has different methods of doing things, so you might not even play this game. You probably don't play this game as religiously as some other players do. You don't play it as often. You're more casual, whatever. You're more hardcore. But the one constant that I've seen, especially in the last couple of months, really soon after the anniversary, a lot sooner than it should have been, to be honest, is players complaining about how the game feels boring. And, this always happens, so I usually don't address it, but now more than ever, I want to address it because I feel like the devs really do need to step up and do something about it. I don't think the game is like in jeopardy or anything like that. Like, it's still cranking out updates, it's still chugging along, whatever, but they are sort of, like, I don't want this to become the status quo. Basically, I'm not interested, or I won't be happy if 6 months, a year down the line, we look back and we were like, yep, that's how things ended up staying. So I'm gonna fight and whine and cry and poop my pants, hoping to get the attention of the people in charge so that they can sort of just make a few adjustments, because the ship is going way down onto the horizon, and if you just turn the wheel a couple of times, the ship will end up in a much better place. So in order to do that, I actually wanted to go back in time a little bit. So I don't really have any interesting content to show you while I'm talking about this. I usually try to do that, but basically we'll just go through the menus. So in just the first half, that's what I want to focus on, because we still have almost half the year to go, a little bit less than that. It's a bit unfair to compare just the first 7 months of the year versus the entirety of last year, 2021, or the entirety of 2020. So we'll just compare the first half. Okay, stay with me here. So in the first half of 2020, we got Squad Battle as a brand new game mode. I know it's been over 2 years now. We also got the Guardians of the Galaxy Epic Quest, right? We ended up getting another Epic Quest later in 2020, but again, just that one. And then in 2020, we also got a ton of reworks, right? Lots of character reworks. And we also got at least 12 new playable characters. We got the Warriors of the Sky. We got, Mystique, Professor X, and Mr. Sinister. We got Baron Zemo and Madam Hydra. Okay, all those brand new Phyla Vel, of course, in the Epic Quest, and Dark Hawk. Gotta say his name slowly. So that was 2020, right? Okay, cool. Not the best, not the worst. But the interesting thing about 2020 was it was the start of all those character reworks. It was the start of this like new MFF where like, yo, they reworked Odin, yo, they reworked Silver Surfer, they reworked Hulk, they reworked Black Widow for PvP. That's sick. That was the start of what is now basically the only thing that we get, which is character reworks. Okay, so what about 2021? What about last year, Alex? Well, last year we actually got not one but two playable native tier 3s. We got Null at the beginning of 2021, and then we got Mephisto for the anniversary. So that's a pretty big deal, because long-term goals, especially long-term character goals, are really important in Marvel Future Fight. Okay, that was cool. What else did we get? We got one brand new World Boss Legend. I'm not going to count Null because he was actually introduced at the end of 2020, but we did get Mephisto, who was introduced in 2021. Of course, you had to fight Mephisto to unlock Mephisto. Okay, what else did we get in the first half? Just the first half of 2021. We got the entirety of the story mode fragment farming. This whole concept with the characters, right? With these characters down here, all of this was introduced in 2021, and this synergy thing, all of that. Not the autoplay, but the whole game mode, right? We also got Dispatch, the whole game mode, introduced in the first half of 2021. We also got two new characters. Now, by now, you're sort of tired of them, but yeah, we got Icarus and Cersei. At the time, neither one of them had their uniform, and neither one of them had their tier 3 or their transcendence, so they weren't that good, but we did get two new characters. Okay, and then of course we got lots of character reworks, right? So last year we saw like the Defenders getting reworked, amazing rework. We saw the X-Men, Rogue, Gambit, Cable getting reworked. The Fantastic Four got reworked. Again, this is all just in the first half of the year. Then we come to 2022. So what have we gotten in just the first half of the year? Well, we got the story mode autoplay, which is obviously not as much. It's not any content necessarily. It's not any new content. It just allows you to farm resources faster, right? So we got that, which basically just bumps up the time that you're playing, but doesn't actually do anything. Like, it's tricky because it's a good thing, and I don't want to diss it or discourage it, but at the same time, you can't compare it to, like, it was a good change, but it was only possible because the year before the devs had put in the work to make this game mode, right? So it's not as good as making a game mode as making the game mode just more accessible to players and less of a burden in terms of your time. Right now your phone just needs to be on rather than you need to be like hardcore playing it yourself. This year we also did get a new World Boss Legend. We got Ultron. Now it may be World Boss Legend fatigue. Ultron definitely didn't hit as hard as Mephisto or Null. I was hype over the moon for Null and Mephisto. Ultron I was pretty hyped for, but I could feel the community's hype was definitely like half as much or less, and that definitely drained some of my hype. So I do think that the fight is cool. I think the music is really good. I think the devs did a really good job on it. Like, so again, I'm not trying to insult it or discourage it, but I think that they need to do more than just create a new World Boss Legend. Like, they need to tweak the game mode a little bit, the game mode itself, when they do this. Like, they need to tweak the rewards so that they're substantially different, or they need to do something different, right? The copy paste formula, it starts to get more boring the more you do it, right? So they had this formula, brand new formula, wow. And then they just copy pasted it for Mephisto. The thing that was interesting about Mephisto is they made him blast. So maybe that was the mistake, was going back to Universal, because Ultron just feels like a much more annoying version of Null. I don't know what the answer is necessarily, but yeah, we did get a new World Boss Legend. We also got a new GBR, right? We also got a new GBR with Dormammu, which is pretty cool, right? We also got Multiverse Invasion. So you might say that the game modes, like the introduction of new game modes, is actually pretty similar from 2022 to 2021 and 2020. I don't think it is. On the surface, it looks like that. But the problem is, like I said, Ultron World Boss Legend was the third iteration. So obviously, the third time you give someone the same gift, it's not really gonna bust. It's not really gonna hit. It's not gonna be busting the way it is the first time you give them a gift or the second time you give them that gift. Multiverse Invasion, I think, is a huge flop of a game mode. Not the biggest flop ever, but it's definitely not something that the majority of players were excited about and are excited about today. Whereas players are still excited about Dispatch, right? So I think Dispatch and maybe even Squad Battle completely eclipse Multiverse Invasion. So really, I think the only kind of exciting gear shifting game mode that we've gotten this year is GBR. And then, what else have we gotten this year? We got one new character, Echo. Just one. Now, unlike Icarus and Cersei, she does have her Transcended, so she is usable in most content, but she's a much less popular character. There's no way around it. Icarus and Cersei are not that popular, but they've been in a movie, and the actors are much more well known if you know Game of Thrones or if you know, Crazy Rich Asians and stuff like that, right? Whereas Maya Lopez, Echo, very unknown character and only briefly seen in a 6-episode series for probably the weakest Disney Plus show in terms of like critical reception, or maybe second weakest after Miss Marvel. So one character. And then the only other thing we got this year that we get every single year nowadays is the character reworks. And again, I've made this point in a video. I don't mean to discourage the character reworks, but I feel like the devs, for whatever reason, have like zoned in on it, and they're like, hyper fixated on just reworks, and it just doesn't have the same impact that it had 2 years ago. It was so refreshing 2 years ago to get these reworks for Odin, Silver Surfer, Hulk, Black Widow, all these characters. Rah! Even the reworks that were not that good, like Black Bolt getting reworked, it was still refreshing because it was like, wow, they care about these these lesser characters and they're making them useful. Now it's like, oh wow, they care about these lesser characters and they're making them useful, but I'm still not going to use them. So yeah, I think that ultimately, if we're to sort of summarize this video and sort of summarize my thoughts, I think it comes down to two things. I think game modes that were introduced a couple years ago are starting to reach their sort of expiry date, right? The bread is getting moldy basically on game modes like Squad Battle and ABX and Timeline Survival and Shadowland, right? These game modes that were tweaked or introduced without changes a couple of years ago. So I really think the devs need to make some tweaks to these game modes. Again, it doesn't cost that much. It doesn't take that much time. I know the engine is old, but it can't be that bad to go in and add stuff to it. So I really think, a breath of life to these game modes would really spike engagement. 5 new Shadowland stages even. Just rotating the restrictions on Squad Battle, not even changing any of the mechanics or anything. Just rotating the requirements. Rotating the requirements in ABX, or adding another week, or changing the skin on the Frost Beast so he looks like a different enemy or he behaves a little bit differently, right? Just small tweaks here and there would, I think, extend the expiry, extend the shelf life of these lesser game modes by quite a bit. Because nowadays, I think a lot of players are doing World Boss, right? They're jumping in and doing their 5 World Bosses because everyone loves World Boss. They're maybe doing a couple GBRs if they can, and then they're just auto playing the rest, and then just quitting and then just closing out the game for the day. And it looks good on an engagement level when they're showing when the devs are showing their bosses, like, wow, look how long players are playing for hours a day now, right? Instead of 45 minutes, they're playing for an hour and 20 minutes. We did a good job. They're not actually doing a good job because the player numbers are declining, and the general feeling of the player base is that this is kind of boring. Like, we can live with it, we can put up with it, but it's kind of boring. And then I think the other problem, right? So game modes are expiring in terms of their staleness. And then I think the other problem is that there hasn't actually been enough strong characters. The status quo has been maintained too much. Now, I know that getting too many strong characters too fast is a problem in itself, where free-to-play and low spenders feel like the game's very pay to win. But on the flip side, we're getting the opposite, where there's not enough characters that are actually moving the needle and making you like want to invest, right? So many players I know, they missed the boat, or they didn't want to invest in Adam and Emma for PvP or Thanos. And so they thought to themselves back in February, they were like, I'll just wait for the next PvP meta. Yo, dog, where are they? Where is he or she or whatever? They ain't here, dog. March, April, May, June, July. 5 months. 5 months people have been waiting. That's boring as hell, dog. That's boring as hell. Remember how everybody was hype? They were like, yo, Ultron, I would rather Ultron be super strong and busted. And he wasn't. That to me was a huge indicator that the player base was craving like a new, completely busted character. And the devs were like, nah. How about we give you Gwenpool? How about we give you some characters who are barely better than other characters? Look, Electro. He's slightly better than Gamora in ABX. Whoa, Green Goblin. He's slightly better than Electro. This slightly better shit is mad boring. Mad boring. So I think those are the two big problems that the game has right now and that updates have right now. And I basically, every future update is going to be seen through that lens for the players, right? If there's no character that I need an investment in for a specific piece of content, either because the content is new or the content has changed its restrictions or because the character is busted, I'm just going to ignore the update. There have been so many skip updates this year. I would say more than half of the updates have been skip updates, which is tragic, man. Which is tragic. And it doesn't drive players to come to the game. It doesn't drive players to stay in the game. And it doesn't drive player spending. So I don't really understand why it's being maintained as the status quo. But yeah, that's how I feel. So hopefully hopefully we get something. Hopefully we get like a dev note or something. Hopefully the next update when we start seeing sneak peeks is more interesting and has a bit more substance to it than just 3 new uniforms and 3 new artifacts and nothing else. I really think the devs have a lot of work to do in the second half of the year to regain the players' trust. Not trust, to regain the players' interest. I think they've lost the script as far as entertaining us, and they definitely need to get back there. Tier 4 is really not the answer to keeping us entertained. Like, Tier 4 is cool, but it's definitely not going to keep players entertained. It doesn't do what they thought it was going to do the way that Tier 3 did. So they really need to look at the game from more of a macro level and figure it out. And hopefully take some advice from this video and the comment section that you guys are going to fill in with good ideas and other avenues and other social media kind of commentary. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.